Darryl Colombo was into women. From the time he discovered his prick in the 3rd grade and started masturbating, he knew he liked them. He liked knives back then, too. Nothing had changed. The first time he pulled one on a sex worker, he cut her deep enough to get blood all over the back seat of the rental Cadillac. It didn't matter. The company paid for the cars, the hotels. Though they didn't know it, they even paid for the hookers when they sent him on jobs. There were many benefits of being an engineer. He didn't pay that girl, though. Hadn't paid one since. It was more fun to use his knife. It was a big one, with a 5-inch blade that folded out from a heavy camouflage handle. He always used the same one he had pulled on the first hooker back in Rochester last year. He never killed them. Why would he? They were sex workers. They weren't going to call the police. What would they say if they did? Darryl smiled and tapped his fingers against the steering wheel to the beat of the music. He nodded his head with the bass as the singer wailed about a highway to hell. "I don't know," a meek voice came from the back seat of the rental car. "What was that, Chief?" I think I should probably go home, Darryl. My mom's going to be pretty mad." Darryl wasn't into little boys. Had never been before, at least. Picking this one up had been such a thoughtless act. He had almost been like one of the many robots he had built over the years. That was a problem, and he knew it. He would have to address it later. It was also a problem that he had told the kid his name. Not that it made an entire world of difference. Sedrow Woolley, Washington, was so rural that even if he hadn't, it wouldn't have been hard to pinpoint a guy from out of town. Either way, he figured the outcome would had to have been the same. It didn't take a master's from ITT Tech to figure that out. "What? Nah, you'll be okay, bud. What's she going to be mad about?" "It's just, I don't know." "Andy, why are you worried now? I told you. You're going to love the surprise. Your parents paid good money for this." For a moment, all that could be heard was AC/DC. Then little Andy said, "Are you sure?" "Does a bear shit in the woods?" Yeah." Darryl looked in his rearview mirror at the boy who was wearing his company hat. It was white, with black lettering across the front which read, "Fairfax." It was tilted sideways and way too big for the kid. It made him look somehow smaller and more vulnerable. He was hard to see through the dark. The woods around the car blocked out light from the stars and moon, though it was mid-September and cloudy anyway. "You know what this mountain's called?" Andy nodded. "You'll have to speak up, Chief." Darryl returned his gaze to the windy road. "Yes." "Well, what is it?" "Anderson Mountain." "Very good. That's pretty impressive. How'd you know that?" "My dad's told me like 100 times, every time we drive by it." He sniffed. It was the most notable sign of panic that he had shown since Darryl picked him up that evening. It wasn't helping to alleviate his own panic. What choice did he have, though? Let the kid go and wait for him to point a finger at him? Go to prison? He was so far from home, how would Jan and the kids even be able to visit? For the past 2 hours, he had fought to keep his composure. Getting Andy into the car hadn't been the hard part. He just drove by, saw the kid pulling an old beat-up garbage can out to the road, stopped and said, "Hi." It had taken all of 60 seconds to convince him that his parents had paid him to pick him up. "A special surprise for you, bud." There was no way, though, that it should have worked. Darryl knew kids, had 2 of them himself. They were his heart and soul. They were never this trusting. Only in a town like Sedrow Woolley.